prioritize what Canadians want. And what they want is to live in safe communities.
We have breaking news, Canada. Because of you, because of the relentless pressure, the letters to Liberal MPs, the calls to constituency offices, the conversations with religious leaders, and the public push online, because of Canadians standing up, the Liberals have been forced to shelve Bill C-9 and its attack on religious freedoms and shift their focus instead to bail reform. That means committee will now be dealing with the most urgent public safety legislation currently before Parliament.
Let's take a look.
C-9 in its entirety was completely redundant. Redundant in the sense that we've had hate laws codified in the Criminal Code of Canada for over 4 decades. So this was not an issue of police lacking resources, police lacking tools. This was a political decision by various police services on their own or under the direction of their municipal leaders to not do their damn job. And that job, they were sworn to uphold every single law in the 1,000-page Criminal Code of Canada. And example after example, story after story, we have witnessed right across this country examples of criminal activity that should have resulted in charges being laid against these thugs. But they weren't. Inexcusable as to why they weren't. In fact, I'm not going to identify the city. I'm not going to out the municipal leaders. I'm certainly not going to out the municipal police service. But examples from that particular municipality rocked me to the core when I learned that the direction given by the municipal leaders to that municipal police service was simply to act as peacekeepers. Sworn, armed peacekeepers, not to make any arrests. And I heard examples in that particular city of threats being uttered, physical assaults taking place, pushing and shoving and spitting at Jewish individuals who simply were there to enjoy their synagogue or to enjoy their place of recreation, free of any abuse and intimidation and harm, and the police dropped the ball. So that's what this issue really is. But in framing my argument in support of prioritizing 14, I want to reiterate the words of the Prime Minister today in Ottawa. I quote, "From tougher bail, tougher sentencing, protecting younger Canadians from online harm, protecting people who go their place of worship or their community centre, protecting them for harassment, all of that crime legislation is being held up." Not held up by the Conservative Party of Canada, Mr. Chair. And then later, House Leader McKinnon. McKinnon says in the House of Commons right now that Pierre Poilievre should support the quick passage of Bill C-14 and C-16. His quote, "It's time for us to put up or shut up on crime." I have been an advocate at this Justice Committee since day one about prioritizing community safety. the safety of Canadians, particularly victims. If the Prime Minister wants us to prioritize C-14, if the House Leader wants us to shut up or put up, I'm prepared, as my Conservative colleagues, also following up on a letter that our leader, Pierre Poilievre, wrote to the Prime Minister, setting out his expectations and priorities and his willingness to work with parliamentarians to prioritize what Canadians want. And what they want is to live in safe communities. I've said this repeatedly till I'll keep saying this till I'm blue in the face. Community safety is not partisan. I don't care what your background, I don't care what your ideology is. Everyone wants to live and raise their families in a law and order community. And we've got an opportunity here as parliamentarians to give them exactly what they want. Therefore, I am moving the following dilatory motion, Mr. Chair, that the committee proceed to the consideration of Bill C-14, the Bail and Sentencing Reform Act, immediately.
Okay, we'll put it to a vote.
Can we, Mr. Chair, can I ask for a suspension for a couple of minutes?
Yeah, we'll suspend it for a moment.
Thank you.
So kudos to Larry Brock and Andrew Lawton and all of their staff and all of the staff of everybody in the Justice Committee, because these are stories and accounts that Larry is bringing to committee to remind the Liberals that this is not just the Conservatives trying to move things along. And this is not the Conservatives obstructing, which has been the Liberal narrative this whole time. These are Canadians that are demanding to actually get bail reform done. We have religious freedom right now. I want my religious freedom. I don't need C9. I need laws that are actually enforced. That's the problem right now. Now, the issue with the current laws is our bail system, and that was broken by the Liberals. So it was really something when you look at the marathon committee meetings that happened before Christmas and all of the conversations that happened over Christmas, and all of this comes back now to a head to try to force the Liberals to actually move this along. And it's interesting because they asked to suspend, and when they came back, what happened was they voted on Larry's motion and it was defeated because there was nothing specific about it. And then something interesting happened.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the motion reads as follows, and I will read the English version, that the committee pause clause-by-clause consideration of C9 and act to amend the criminal code, hate propaganda, hate crime, and access to religious or cultural places, that the committee allocate 3 meetings to consideration of C14, and act to amend the criminal code, the Youth Criminal Justice Act, and the National Defense Act, bail and sentencing, beginning at its next meeting, Wednesday, that the committee not adjourn its 3rd meeting on C14 until clause-by-clause consideration of this bill is complete, and that the meeting following the completion of clause-by-clause on C14, the committee resume clause-by-clause consideration of C9.
Now, isn't that interesting? Larry had a very similar motion, and instead of amending it to include all these extra details, the Liberals voted it down and instead made sure that they were the ones to present the motion.
Right. So they can try to now go to the media and say, we're prioritizing bail reform. You know, we heard you, Canada. That's what we're doing.
Well, and I just want to point out to all the critics who say that the Conservatives don't do anything, they haven't done nothing. Like, this is a direct result of not only pressure from the public, but also pressure from the Conservatives, the opposition.
Right. And this is why the working committee is so, so important. And this is where a lot of the great acts of our time actually happened, is inside committee. You know, when they completely gutted C5 and allowed it to pass with minimal abuse of power. else we may actually be in a Liberal majority government right now if they didn't do that. And things like this, where they're actually forcing the Liberals to move on to other legislation in order to actually address the legislation that needs looking at. Like, the issue with C9 is all of that is enforceable today. This is just lip service, trying to appease the Liberal base and trying for Sean Fraser to actually show that he did something.
Well, and above and beyond that, what is making C9 different from the laws we currently have in place is it's opening up this possibility that you could be arrested, charged, just you could face consequences under the law for reciting hateful text, like from a religious text.
Right, because the Bloc made the Liberals pass that amendment that removes that protection from the law, and we talked about that before. So what a day, Canada. What a day back in Parliament. And you won't hear the mainstream media probably talk about this at all because it's a Liberal loss, but it is a win for religious freedom, and it's a win for all of the Canadians that took the time to write their MP. And for everybody out there that says, writing your MP doesn't do anything, this is a prime example and a very, very good example of how a lot of individual Canadians taking one small act together, you can force this government and bend it to your will. Now, there's still a lot of work to go. This is just one example, but this is a very, very huge victory right now, because now, hopefully, the Conservatives can take this C-14 bill and amend the heck out of it, stripping out all of the Liberal problems and putting our justice system back together again the way it was prior to Justin Trudeau and this Liberal government taking office in the first place. Way to go, Canada.